Now, in this episode and the last one, we talked about dehumanization and its neural underpinnings. And in this episode, we talked about the situational variables which play a role in it. So the question is, what can we do about dehumanization? As we come to understand the neural basis and the psychological basis and the contextual basis, how does that steer us? So I'm going to propose 3 lessons that emerge for us. The first is the unspeakably important role of education. Education specifically about propaganda and dehumanization and the social context that influences us. It's critical for us to teach the Milgram experiments and the Zimbardo experiments to our children and to ourselves, such that this becomes part of our background knowledge. Everyone knows and talks about these sorts of experiments, and they know what to do about it. Because after all, in his book, Obedience to Authority, Milgram said, look, I'm going to take what we've learned here and distill it down to all the rules that people use when they want other people to do their bidding. So he said, first of all, if a person wants you to be obedient to them, first they're going to prearrange some form of contractual obligation. In this case, it was, we're going to pay you $4 and then you're going to participate in this experiment. Next, they'll give you a meaningful role, like you're a teacher or you're a guard. And those activate particular response scripts. People feel like, oh, I know exactly what to do with that. Then the person will present basic rules to be followed, like when the student gets the wrong answer, you move up to the next level of shock. And these rules can be arbitrarily changed later. The person will change the semantics of the act. Instead of calling it hurting the victim, they'll call it helping the experimenter. The person will allow for a diffusion of responsibility. So remember in Milgram's setup, the experimenter said, don't worry, I'll be responsible for anything that happens to him. Just keep going. This way, when you're doing the act, you don't have to take everything onto your own shoulders. The person will start the path with small steps, like just give him a little electrical shock, he'll barely feel it. And then as things go on, they'll say, just a little more, just a little higher, until before you know it, you're at the top of the scale, delivering dangerously high levels to a person who might already be unconscious. It's like the frog in the frying pan method. If the heat gets turned up slowly, the frog doesn't jump out. And humans are no different in this way. Finally, the person will make exit costs high, but they'll allow verbal dissent. In other words, they won't let you leave the experiment, but they will allow you to express distress. They'll allow you to complain because that'll make you feel better. A complaining person will still go up to 450 volts, but they'll feel better about themselves if they say, oh, I feel really uncomfortable, I don't want to do this, but they still do it. And finally, the person will offer larger goals, some ideology that your small contribution helps with. In the case of the Milgram experiment, it was as simple as, we're trying to study the science of memory. In the case of genocide, it's usually about pride or purity or economics or restoring dignity and opportunity or whatever story. But the idea is that as you shock somebody or perhaps shoot somebody, you are working in service of a larger goal.